Welcome back to Law Talk with AB, where we break down the legal battles that are shaping this country. With no spin, just straight constitutional truth. Today's question is real simple, but it's about to get very real. Who actually controls the executive branch of the United States? Because right now, the Supreme Court is circling an issue that could completely change presidential power. And most people aren't even paying attention. I'm Aaron Borders. Let's get into it. Let me hit you with this straight out the gate. There are people running parts of the executive branch that the president cannot fire. That sounds kind of crazy, but that's what's happening. Sounds a little wrong sometimes, but it's very real. Congress created agencies where top officials can only be removed for cause, not for disagreement, not for politics, not for policy, only real serious misconduct. So here's the real constitutional fight. Can Congress tell the president who he can and cannot remove from the executive branch? Now let's bring this into real life. Here's an agency most folks don't think about or talk about, but really it's in their everyday life. It's called the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. They regulate big tech, they enforce antitrust laws, they even go after deceptive business practices. In theory, a good thing. But this is real power. But here's the catch. They're structured as an independent agency. This means the leadership is protected from being fired at will. So think about it. Their job is executing the executive power from the administration. But the president can't even control them. He can't get rid of them. He can't change them out, put his people in. So who's actually in charge? This is where it stops being theoretical and starts becoming a real constitutional problem. Some call it the deep state. You know, folks that are against the president doing their own thing. And they refuse to implement the president's agenda, but they implement their own. If this stands, we got a problem. Now, this isn't a new issue. The Supreme Court dealt with executive branch independence all the way back in 1935 with Humphrey's Executor v. United States. That case basically said Congress can place limits on the president's removal powers for certain agencies, period, full stop. And that decision then shaped how the federal government has operated for decades now. But here's what's changing. The Supreme Court has new justices on it. They have different ideas of how the separation of the Congress and how the president and the executive branch is supposed to work. And they're starting to question the framework altogether. In cases like Selah Law or Collins v. Yellen, the court signaled that there may be limits on how independent these agencies can really be, and really are moving towards saying the executive branch should have executive powers, full stop. It all comes down to one line in the Constitution, Article 2, that states expressly that the executive power belongs to the president, period, end of discussion. So now the court is facing a big question. Can you have executive power without total presidential control of the executive branch? We're going to find out. Now here, this argument could flip the entire system. If the president is constitutionally responsible for the executive branch, then the president has to be able to control it. That includes directing policy, supervising agencies, and yes, removing officials who won't carry out the administration's agenda. Because without that, you're left with unelected officials making major decisions that may be completely counterproductive to the president's agenda, and they're not accountable to him? How does that work? Better yet, they're not accountable to the voters, because the voters are the ones that put in the president to set the agenda. And this is where it hits really hard. You can't have executive power without executive control. And if the Supreme Court agrees with that, this isn't a small adjustment, folks. This is a structural shift in how the executive branch operates. So what happens if the court goes big? Here's the things that really are going to change. The president could gain more direct control over federal agencies. Independent commissions could lose some of their insulation Congress built into them. And policy could start shifting fast, and more politically, frankly, with each administration. So the shifts could be big swings. Agencies like the FTC, the SEC, the FCC all could be impacted depending on how far this ruling goes. Now, some people will say that's accountability. The president is elected, so the president should be in charge, and those are his people. Consequences of how that works is on him or her. Others will say that opens the door to more political pressure on agencies that were designed to stay somewhat independent and really just focus on what's good for America. Well, that's relative, right? So the real divide is control versus independence. And whichever line it lands on, that's going to shape the government and how it works for years to come. This is why it matters. It's not just another headline that's going to pass you by. It is a constitution that is being interpreted in real time and setting precedents, stare decisis, which will stay with us for years to come. So I want to hear from you. Should the president have full control over all the agencies in the executive branch? Or do independent agencies that serve in the executive branch, are they independent for their own important purposes and the president should have zero control? I'm interested. I love your comments. I love your thoughts. Drop your thoughts below. And if you're rocking with Law Talk with AB and you like it, smash that like button, subscribe button, and turn the bell on so you get notifications for our next show. And until next time, stay sharp, stay locked in. This is AB. I'm out.